Hello there folks, and how is it going? And welcome back to another video, and welcome to the inside of this common room here at this beautiful campsite. Now, to jump straight into this, I just want to try and make this as short and sweet as possible. I have been shooting Sony cameras forever. I can't even remember. I bought the A7III when that came out many moons ago, and I think I got that around 2016. And ever since then I've just basically stuck with Sony just because it was the only kind of system that I invested in, but up until very recently. And if you have been following along the channel, you'll have known that the grand adventures that I had found myself on these past few months, I was actually using a Canon camera. And not to get into too much kind of like, oh, Canon's better than Sony. I don't really want this to be any of that kind of stuff. It's not a review video. It's not necessarily even like a comparison video. I just want to talk about my experience shooting with a Canon camera over my Sony. As many of you know, it has completely broken. So if you are new here, my name is Neil, and I am a travel and landscape photographer from Ireland, currently in Portugal right now at the moment, which I have lived in for the last while. And I travel and take photographs wherever I can. So if you're into that kind of thing, you are most welcome to stick around and subscribe. So let's move on and let's talk about what it was like to use a Canon camera after so many years of shooting Sony. So just to talk about the Sony camera that I had ever so briefly, again, as I mentioned, it's completely broken and dead. I used the Sony A7III, was my kind of workhorse camera that took me everywhere and I took everywhere with me. The thing was a solid beast of a hybrid camera. It really did all of its functions tremendously well, and it's a good camera. I really would recommend one. But again, as I've said many times, the shutter just basically became unusable and has completely broken. Yeah, we're talking about bacon jam right now. One of the things that I got very used to shooting with Sony was the menu system, and basically where the buttons are and all of that kind of fun stuff. So most cameras have rolly dials and buttons here, there and everywhere. All camera manufacturers do it very differently, and obviously using the Sony cameras for such a long time, I got very used to where the buttons were. So when I first got this camera from Brendan, I changed all of the dials and the settings to basically suit my workflow. I didn't change any of the kind of the buttons and what they did. I just basically changed the dial which I use for my ISO, shutter speed, and then aperture. So that's the only real thing that I changed. Other than that, everything was as kind of Brendan left it. And it was fine. When it worked fine, and it was grand, So, as I mentioned, these were borrowed cameras. If, again, like you've been following along, or if you are new here, I spent the better part of about 5 weeks, maybe almost 6 weeks in Southern Africa leading workshops, and then went to Japan, led some workshops there, and had this camera with me as the kind of main workhorse camera that I needed to basically go and run a workshop with. So that's basically how I kind of came to be, to have this camera with me. Brendan thankfully was nice enough to be able to loan me the gear, which was grand, so I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, so that's kind of how I ended up getting them. So the first thing I want to talk about in relation to this camera over the Sony camera that I was using is the girth of it. It's just, and I'm well used to holding girth, and it really feels really solid in the hand. It really does. And the process of changing lenses is, of course, very quick. And a beautiful thing that I love about this camera over the previous Sony was when it's off, the curtain comes down. And that is just a total lifesaver when you're changing lenses in, not so ideal conditions. But yeah, as I say, the weight of it, the feel of it, it just feels like you're holding something steady, and that's something that if you did drop it, God forbid, that it wouldn't like crumble into a bunch of pieces, So it really feels super duper good in the hand. But the thing that I suppose drew me most when I went down to Brendan to get the stuff from him for the workshops was that I have obviously worked with Brendan in the past, and I've seen him use this camera in the landscape. And I was always super impressed with how the files looked on the back of the screen. I'll get into the screen now in just a minute, but the files they always look so vibrant. And so I don't know whether he used a particular kind of picture profile or anything like that, but I was always quite impressed with, one, the sharpness of the image when you zoom in, and then of course, like I say, the colors. But the big thing, oh wow, is this screen. Look at it spin. It is absolutely fantastic. I got such pleasure in taking the screen out and having to do all of this kind of stuff if you're composing for portrait. That was so wonderful. As you know, the older Sony cameras, they only had that kind of tilt out screen, which was fine, but it was a complete nightmare when you needed to get low, because I mean, look at this, I'm like right down here, and I'm like looking beautiful. But the piece de resistance for me with this screen was the touch to focus and touch to shoot. Whew, it's so amazing just to be able to set your focus point and it would take a picture, set your focus point, made focus stacking just a complete breeze, and I loved it about it. So yeah, really like that about this Sony camera. In terms of the kind of like functionalities, it was definitely faster to focus than the A7 III, no question about it. The focus modes that were in the camera, I played around with a fair bit, as much as I could, having shot a lot of wildlife in Botswana. You really need to kind of try and get the focus as fast as you can. And it kept up super duper well, which I'm really like. And particularly in low light situations as well, it did a wonderful job. So yeah, really great camera for that. And I really like it for that. So overall, really, the main kind of differences that I felt was just the feel of it, the responsiveness of the camera. I know this is probably a bit of a newer camera. Oh, by the way, this is the Canon EOS 6, the Mark I. I'm not sure when it came out. I think the A7 III is a slightly older camera, so the tech is just probably a bit slower in that regard. But as I say, I was very pleasantly surprised. It didn't really change anything in how I approach a scene or how I shoot a scene or a leopard or any of that kind of stuff. The fundamentals are all still the same, as long as I was comfortable with changing the shutter and the aperture on the fly and the ISO. That's all I really mainly cared about the most, and the camera did a wonderful job at helping me produce the images that you would have all seen over the last bunch of videos that were posted here on the channel. So I can't really give you a direct comparison. I wish I had the A7 III with me now, but I left it at home in Dublin when I was visiting there before heading off to Japan, just because there was no point in me bringing it around with me because it's so broken. But let me introduce you now to Betsy. This is the upgrade of upgrades, my friends. This is the Sony A7R5, and this camera has been a long time coming, and it is a complete beast. By the time this particular video comes out, I will have used it a lot more, but as it stands now, I only really got it got it delivered to me not too long ago at all. But it has a flippy screen, oh my God. And in terms of kind of how it feels in the hands, it's actually quite similar. It's a bit heavier than this Canon, but in terms of like the grip depth, it's very nice. And I have already kind of gone through the menu systems and doing all of that kind of fun stuff to talk about, or at least to set up the camera and how I shoot, again with the dials and so on and so forth. But that camera is his own video, at some point down the road, so it's definitely stay tuned to that. But I'm super excited to get this out into the field and pixel shift my way to colossal file sizes. So just to kind of close this off, as I say, I don't really want to make it a super duper long video. I was excited at the opportunity to shoot with something else. The glass that Brendan gave me, he has the old 100 to 400 and the 14 to 35 f4, and both of those lenses are gorgeous lenses, and I was so happy of the level of sharpness in the frames that I was capturing throughout the course of using this camera, that I was like really happy with the opportunity to have it in my hands, as I say. And I have no real kind of bias one way or another. They're tools at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, and whatever works for you works for you, and I'm not going to get into any kind of debates over which is better or any of that kind of stuff. But as I say, if you are already kind of invested in Canon glass and Canon gear, then awesome. I have no doubt that you're capturing some wonderful, wonderful photographs. But if, like me, obviously all of my lenses are all Sony lenses, so I had no choice but to get a new Sony camera to replace the previous one. And it also gives a wonderful opportunity just to try different things. Sure, why not? If you have the opportunity to hold a Sony camera that you've been shooting Canon for years, go for it. Why not? They're, you know, as I say, they're all just tools at the end of the day. So just, if you can, you might as well shoot with whatever works. The best camera is the one that you have with you at the time. I think I'm still, like I said, so heavily invested in the Sony kind of ecosystem. I really don't ever see myself kind of changing out of that. Again, like I said, I'm very glad at the opportunity to have shot the Canon. And you know, if I was ever to choose or swap or change, sure, I would absolutely consider Canon. I've never photographed with a Canon camera before, and I certainly haven't photographed with a Nikon camera either, so I don't know how they would compare in relation to these as well. So, you know, at least if I knew I was swapping completely from Sony to Canon, I would, you know, probably lean into this kind of format and system, easy peasy. So I'm going to leave it here, folks. Again, I didn't necessarily want to, I know I probably compared a few bits. I didn't really want to, you know, be like a review video. It's just my experience using the camera over the last few months, and really enjoying the process as well. Oh, and actually, you know, one thing I forgot to mention was the display. I love the idea of being able to set up the crop. I wasn't ever able to do that as well, and I really enjoyed that about this system as well. I assume I could probably do it here with this new camera too. Anyways, fun times shooting Canon, but I'm a Sony guy. What can you do? So anyway, if you're anyway interested in joining any of the workshops that I have organized, or that certainly you would have seen over the last couple of months here on the channel, you will find all of the links and down in the description box to the workshops that I have currently running. There are still spaces available, so do absolutely feel free to have a look, and if you're anyway interested, by all means, you're welcome to get in touch. Also the newsletter, if you do feel like you want to hear more of my insane ramblings in a Word format, you're most welcome to sign up to the newsletter down below as well. I love the newsletter. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing, and I really do enjoy doing it. And there you go. So if you like the video, folks, do please give it a like. And I don't really do videos like this so often. But anyways, if you fancy, of course, following along for more adventures to come, you are most welcome to hit that subscribe button. But for now, I will see you all in the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Cheers.